there are very few things when it comes to a series where the fandom will always get hyped up over just one well-rounded thing. And one of those things that just continuously is able to, like, achieve that level of excitement is when a character gets a new power-up form, especially the main character. And here we have Shiki running in with this new, like, more advanced form. And I gotta say, he looks utterly badass. I love the design. I think not only the design of, like, the darker, like, weird ether, like, skin that he's got. I'm actually wondering what color that's supposed to be. I'm hoping maybe the next chapter will get a color page. I'm very curious about that, because I've been fooled before when it comes to, like, oh yeah, assuming it's black, and then, like, Natsu's Aetherius arms, like, I thought they were black, where they're actually just like a dark red. It's just obviously the way that the series is drawn, generally in black and white, that it looks that way to us. And I actually, in speaking of that, I actually thought it was really cool that in this chapter 97, like, Shiki getting this form is actually, like, the chapter 97 of Fairy Tales, actually when Natsu, like, started eating the Aetherion Force, Dragon Force. I'm wondering this is just a coincidence, or Hiromashima did that on purpose, just to have a nod at his own series. I like that a lot. And even with, like, the different circumstances behind them, and obviously Natsu was just, like, ready to destroy himself in order to take down Jalal, whereas Shiki's just remembering the events and just having, like, a trigger emotion of just himself ready to take on Dracken Joe. So, we know where we were when we left off. Dracken Joe, like, had his machine destroyed, and they were, they saw pretty much him slowly, kind of, like, well, not slowly, like, very, like, immediately losing, like, control over himself and just becoming, like, this weird abomination creature. Like, he just became mutated into this, like, horrific nightmare fueled kind of, like, cosmic, like, horror kind of thing. And I did really like that. I thought that looked fantastic. I like the weirdness of it, where it's not just like, oh yeah, he's just slightly bigger than before. He's got, like, these weird, like, bulbous, swollen horns that come right out of his face. It doesn't even look like he has eyes. He's got multiple arms all stretching out in different directions. And he's spreading throughout the Beliogoer, kind of like an infection. And I saw people talking about one describing Dracken Joe. Essentially, he is a parasite. Like, he goes to these planets, he leeches off of, like, their resources, taking whatever criminals that he can to get stronger, and doing whatever he can to get ahead. I don't remember the poster's name that was talking about that, but if they see this, just drop it in there, or drop a comment, and I'll see it. And I appreciate, you're doing your part for the fandom, and just putting in good information, putting out good stuff for people to talk about. And I really enjoy it when you have one of those those fans that's able just to show the passion of the series and show the passion of what they've noticed and what they've really put together, to give more credit to to some of these writers, and especially Hiromashima. I think he gets a lot of unnecessary flack that I think he deserves, like, a lot more praise, and especially, like, with some of this right now that's going on, that we can really just really look at, like, the contents of this chapter and just say, like, man, this was fucking awesome. But, like, Dracken Joe is just kind of, like, growing out of control. Essentially, when they destroyed the machine, like, all these smaller, like, devices that were all spread without the Beliogoer, pretty much, like, little waypoints that were, like, set to absorb, like, life force from people. Looks like when they were destroyed, like, they kind of, like, reversed. Like, they pretty much messed up, and all that life kind of, like, messed with Dracken Joe. So I'm guessing, like, it just kind of, like, fluctuated into him, but, like, because it was, I keep saying, like, sorry, but because it was out of control and in this way that, like, it wasn't supposed to be designed for, that it probably went in an abnormal manner, and, like, is causing this mutation, causing his overdrive to, like, lose control. And I'm wondering if that's maybe part of what it is. It's his overdrive, because we know their overdrive, it's like when they get to this critical point and their ether gear and them kind of, like, merge with their ether gear and them are already kind of, like, merging, and it's, like, messing with the actual, like, ether that makes them up. And now Dracken Joe is just kind of like losing it. He sends like all his tentacles around to go and like, I think more tendrils. I think they're more like tendrils based on how like sharp and creepy they are. But they're just kind of spreading out, skewering him and skewering all these different guys. Like, takes out his assistant, and it's just going in mass to take out people all over the Belial Goer. Meanwhile, the whole place is starting to get destroyed. I was happy about that, in like the manner that I mentioned in the last review, that there's going to be a lot of like hectic chaos of the characters just trying to get around and trying not to get squished, trying not just to get kind of like mashed by this, all this falling debris that is going on within the Belial Goer. And you have like Pino, and she's not paying fully attention. She might she almost gets crushed by some debris, whereas Sibert comes out, saves her, and she has her fearful moment when she obviously has like some memories of him, and they're having like a kind of like flashbacks and information kind of put into them to where they're remembering stuff from different timelines. So I'm wondering if, because of them knowing Rebecca and Shiki, that maybe and maybe knowing like that these alternate timelines all exist, that they have kind of like a connection to it, to maybe they'll retain some of that knowledge and some of just that experience of what went on. Not the exact same, but enough to kind of just jolt them into a state of mind, maybe give them some development and to some information that can help their characters kind of move forward, But from that point, like, things are just kind of getting crazier. They're like, we need to do something also about the Blaze satellite, the big machine that they took from Kurnai, because it's accumulating enough ether that, like, essentially he's like, it could destroy Blue Garden, it could destroy the planet. If it does that, I'm gonna have to like actually find out how big Blue Garden is, because I know people are gonna like go crazy over it. Like, is it like the size of Earth or something? I don't think it is, but we'll have to do some research into it and maybe try and look into how big it is. But anyway, like, back to like what's going on with all the characters. You have like them just getting attacked by like these weird extension pieces of Dracken Joe. They're like these weird like blob monster kind of like horror faces that are both him, but seem to be more just like I said, extensions of him, like little familiars of himself. But he's just at this point like trying to do what he can to survive, trying to drain and from like life force off of all these people, and not wanting any of them to really kind of get away from him. He's trying to get things done. And his ether power, like his whole alchemy, is definitely enhanced. Like, he's just lifting up his hand, messing with the ether in the air, and like just turning it into like lightning and electricity, electrocuting these guys, slamming them around, and just pulverizing. The physical strength is enough just to be like beating Shiki senseless. And then more showings of his ether gear is just delightful in a lot of ways. I like that he can do so many things with it, but it's all they're mostly like, his abilities are mostly pretty grounded. Like, so far we haven't got anything like crazy complicated. It's just the fact that he can do so much, but he's just morphing parts of his body. He's using all of that material he's made of, all that matter, and converting it into different things. Like, he just reaches his arm out and turns part of his flesh into a gun. Like, it's not like in the shape of a gun, it's straight a gun. And at that point, Shiki's like, he remembers part of the world 29 of that timeline, and he's remembering where he's like, someday, I'm gonna beat you, and I'm gonna be your friend. And then in that world he got shot, and he's just remembering all his friends in tears, and he remembers like when Dracken Joe says like, that day is not gonna happen, that's not really someday that's ever gonna occur. But Shiki just, like, his powers just seem to just kind of flux, and the bullet that shot like right at his forehead is stopped in midair with his gravity powers and just drops to the ground. I really like that, just because it adds a lot to the scene. That, I think, on top of what's going on, I think it just makes it a little bit more ominous, makes it a lot more intensive when you have something that just in small detail is able to add such an extra effect. I mean, because it's not like, blocking a bullet. That's not like something completely out of Shiki's capabilities. It's the fact that it was so close, and it seems to just stop automatically in front of him. It just seems to cease. Like, all motion, all like kinetic energy, all that velocity and stuff, and it just is still and just plummets to the ground. At that point, Shiki gets up, and he's got this badass new form. His hair's longer. It's seemingly white, but I'm guessing because what we know about his ether gear that it's green, maybe just a light green, and he's got like this coating on his arms. I'm very curious to know if it's black. I think if it's black, it would be pretty cool because we know his ether lines are that green color, and I think if it's black and green, it would really like emphasize like his themes because he's supposed to be like the Demon King essentially. He's inherited Ziggy's title, and when you look at like I've talked about the differences between each of them. Like Haru was more of a hero. Hiromishima's like first big main character. Haru was more of like he was much more of a more centered and cornerstone hero. Like he didn't want to kill, but he knew that he had to in order to keep others safe. But it wasn't something that he like. It wasn't something that he ever like was happy about. He wanted war to end. He wanted things to end, and he knew the only way that he'd be able to do that is to fight and to overcome like his opponents and do what he could. Natsu's more of like I always call him kind of like a softcore anti-hero because he's not evil, he's inherently more good, but he's not like he'll immediately do something like that is more bad if it ends up benefiting if it's something for the guild. I don't mean like benefiting like he's gonna be evil to get him a step up, but he doesn't have like a moral code in terms of like, oh, this is a good guy, I'm not gonna hurt him just because he slandered the guild. No, somebody slanders the guild, he's gonna deck him out. And like the guild has always come off more, like I said, that they're out for each other. They're good people at heart, but they're like the guild is above everything else. With Shiki, I put Shiki more as kind of like more of like a soft like anti-villain almost, because we've seen what he's like when he's mad. We've seen how he acts like when he like gets kind of pissed off, and like his anger isn't the same as Natsu or Haru's. Shiki's anger was like when we saw back with Iliga, he was just gonna beat him until like he ran out of energy and he couldn't beat him anymore. Like Iliga had already been unconscious, and Shiki was still throwing punches into him and ready just to keep beating him. There was no stopping until someone stopped him. He was not letting up. He was not gonna kind of just. He wasn't gonna in any way stop until like this dude was paced or until he like passed out from exhaustion. And I think that's gonna be like kind of like the way that like Shiki kind of goes. Like Haru, you have more of the hero. Natsu is more, and Natsu in the guild is more independent, and Shiki in the crew, seemingly at least, is gonna be kind of like soft-core villains in a way. Not evil, but in some manner just not really going with the flow of being like inherently good. You know what I mean? And I think that's going to be really exciting to see. And I think we're going to get that in the next chapter just based off of Shiki's look. I think he's going to be way more serious. I think he's going to be way more kind of like cold-blooded. Not like evil, but more of just calm and collected, ready to just like lash out and like take down his enemy, which I think will be really cool when you can kind of use that to compare to someone like what we have with Natsu and Haru. So definitely excited to see what he's capable of with this one. I'm hoping that we see more of his gravity just like increase, not just of like, oh yeah, more powerful strikes. When we have the satellite blaze going, like I would like to see like maybe instead of just like, oh, they hack in and turn it off or delete it, like Shiki is able to like fly out there. Maybe like one of Shiki's things with his powers, he'll be able to like either breathe in space or he can use gravity to essentially kind of like how like a planet will like, oh no, you need an atmosphere. Like I'm not like, you know what I mean. Fiction powers into like holding air around him so he can go out into space or something, and then maybe like using his gravity instead to grab onto the satellite and just turn it and just drift something so big like that, and so it just shoots out into dead space. Or maybe he points it at Dracken Joe's belly-o-goer and does that instead. I think that would actually be really cool, because I'd like to see more of just like Shiki's output with his gravity manipulation more than just like bigger power levels. But I'm interested to see what this is. And just as a side thing, because I got all the way in and I didn't really mention it, I'm wondering if this is actually his overdrive or if it's something else. Because we've seen overdrive, we've seen what it looks like. I mean, obviously, like, we've known Dracken Joe where he has, like, the weird kind of, like, similar coating that Shiki has on his arms. But It could easily, like, we know that Dracken Joe's didn't change his outfit, which is like the thing that I'm very curious about. But I guess Shiki's is already kind of like that. I mean, it's mostly already that design, but it's kind of like altered in a way. I don't know, but maybe that's just part of how his overdrive is going to work. Or like there's the possibility is it maybe is a different power, and maybe why Ziggy is like took him in because of that. I mean, there's easily the possibility that it's just overdrive, but I don't want to rule out the possibility of like maybe it's got something else to do with Shiki's abilities, because we know that there's something special about him. Otherwise, why would Ziggy take him in? And like, what is he, like some maybe reverse Pinocchio, where he's like a robot designed to kind of be like Shiki, but because of Mother, he made him reborn into a person? I don't know. There's a lot of stuff. I have some other theories that are pretty crazy, but for now, we can just kind of look at it and wait. I'm very hyped to see this next chapter. I really want to see what Shiki's capable of. And also just in general, like I want to see what this form is called. I want to see if it's overdrive or is it something completely different. What exactly is this, and what are we gonna be calling this for the rest of this, like, this series? If it's not overdrive, I'd be wondering like if there's gonna be like some combination later with it. I think the most likely answer is overdrive, but I don't want to rule out some more like origin rooted set of powers, and then maybe like Shiki will reveal eventually that, oh, this is something to do with some lost alien race or something, and then eventually combine like those powers with his overdrive. I don't know, we'll see. It's probably just overdrive, but I don't know. Either way though, comment below, tell me your thoughts about this chapter. I'm hyped. Badass form. I know some people are gonna like try and kind of compare it to like Aetherius Natsu. I don't think so. I mean, there's definitely stuff that you can see in similarity. I think if you saw it in color, that you would definitely like see differences that are way more prominent. Like obviously the longer hair, the color difference with the hair, like the way that the colors also would work. Because one of the things obviously with his Natsu's like Aetherius form is the arms are that color only in like, because we're seeing black and white, they're actually red. Whereas Shiki's, if these are black, the lines are going to be like a bright cosmic green with this energy flowing off it. Where Natsu's is like this cracked and broken, like almost magma style, and then with the dark shading around his eyes, just the fire kind of just emanating off his body. And just actually as one extra side note, because Hiromashima can't do it really with Rave Master unless he does some shenanigans, but he can do it with heroes if he does another one. Give Haru an upgraded form, because Haru didn't have one, and then he had him use Revolt against Genesis, because you have like Natsu's got forms, Shiki's now got like a real good form. Like maybe give like Haru some form of armor, like make him more of like a knight, since he was a sword master and a hero. Something like that I think would fit. Maybe it doesn't have to be a full set, but kind of maybe just some armor pieces and like a cool helmet or something, or like a face guard. Either way though, comment below. Tell me your thoughts about this chapter. Tell me your thoughts about how you take this turn in Nin Zero. Close to chapter 100, and we're gonna get an announcement soon. Probably the anime, but we will see. Other than that though, comment below, thumbs up the video, turn the like button, subscribe button, and check out my other videos. Other than that, I appreciate everyone who's already subscribed, and thank you all for listening. Bye.